Hey everybody, it is Napalm Dawn here on G for G. Today we're going to talk about yet another game that I am aware of that is being rebirthed, kind of dug up from the dirt of dead games. So a lot of times on this channel there are several games that we talk about that are like that. Of course, the biggest being Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux, which is a rebirth of Marvel Avengers Alliance that ran as an online game from 2012 to 2016. There was the Played On website version, there was the Facebook version, iOS, and Android. Android was also the Windows Phone version, because remember, there were Windows phones back then. So it's one of the bigger ones we cover on the channel, but we also talk about Marvel Heroes coming back as the Marvel Heroes server emulator is the name of that, where basically you get the client and then you trick the client into connecting to yourself as essentially being the Marvel Heroes official server. And that is going through its processes, and it's actually moving quite fast. They posted a update recently that showed active combat and more things dropping, like gear and everything. That's not anything that's available right now, but the developer Crypto has showed off some progress. I also happen to know about Gigantic getting rebirthed. Now, originally it was getting rebirthed with a fan remake called Project Stamina. That fell apart, and then 2K actually dug it out of the dirt themselves and made an official one. So I'm in two servers for Gigantic and everything. Rusty Hearts got rebirthed, and Rusty Hearts is a fun game that used to be with the company's name is right there at the edge of my brain, on a Perfect World. It was a Perfect World game that was sort of like a multiplayer dungeon crawler of like Double Dragon, Final Fight, Fatal Fury, kind of a deal like that. Multiple characters, one's like a claw, one's sword, one's gun. I think somebody was like a big axe. And that died, and that got rebirthed. This one is a lot of fun. You can play it with controller, mouse, keyboard. Evolve was back for a little while, but unfortunately got shut back down again. Um, that's kind of a shame. Evolve was fun back in the day. Nosgoth is also back. This was a Sony game that was on Steam, set in the Legacy of Kain universe, where teams of human type classes go against vampire type classes in a 5v5, I think this one was. And then there is Battleborn, which also came back to a certain degree. You can play PvE and you can play PvP versus bots. So if you wanted to do the story or the DLCs, you can do Battleborn. We've covered that one on the channel. We've covered Revolution on the channel. Paragon, which I never really played much of, came back with 2 or 3 different versions, but maybe now it's only down to 1. And the one that we're going to talk about today is RELB, which is the rebirth of Lawbreakers project. Lawbreakers was a game that dropped in the glut of like arena and hero shooters back in like 2016 and all. It's sort of when everything was that way. Before the battle royale type shooters took off, team based shooters with hero classes, they were all the rage. So this was back when we had Battleborn, we had Gigantic, Dirty Bomb was a little bit popular around the time, Paladins was out there, and Overwatch. Paladins and Overwatch are the only two who really survived that one. Battleborn lost. Lawbreakers lost. Paladins lost, unfortunately. Excuse me, not Paladins, Gigantic. Gigantic lost. Paladins survived. Maybe because it's free to play and has kind of a strong footing in the free free to play community, but I haven't been over in Paladins in a really, really long time. I think there's a ton of new characters that I know nothing about, but yeah, when I got my new computer and I moved my Paladins install over, it didn't work out of the box, and I just never put the effort into getting connected again. For Lawbreakers, though, Lawbreakers was a little bit different than a lot of the others. The Lawbreakers lineage was a very movement based shooter, and this comes from its Unreal Tournament pedigree. So you could sort of chase the lineage of real heavy movement arena style shooters from, say, UT and Quake, and then you could kind of trace it into Titanfall's multiplayer area. I mean, all of the game Titanfall 1 and 2 very much had the great movement with the wall running and the grappling. And you see some of that has come into Apex Legends and everything. But yeah, my girlfriend and I had an absolute blast with Titanfall's multiplayer back in the day. And I installed Titanfall 2, and it had some major issues with my setup. It would play well, but the sound acted like I had 10 FPS and was lagging like crazy. I had a lot of sound issues with it back in the day. So unfortunately, I didn't get into multiplayer on that one as much as I wanted. But Lawbreakers had a really good movement setup with its characters and everything. You had some fast-paced melee ones. You had a chain gun wielding, almost Pharah type character who could get up in the air, do like the Destiny and Destiny 2 jetpack kind of stuff. One of those aerial characters is set up a lot like one of Pharah's skins, the Maverick Top Gun Ray-Ban sunglasses and everything. Lawbreakers was great, and even though when people were playing it, they said it was a great game, and it sort of stood out among the pack back in the day, it just didn't dig its nails in hard enough. And part of it was because it's a Cliffy B project. Now, I like Cliffy B a lot. When people say Cliffy B or they say Epic, a lot of people think Fortnite. I wouldn't blame you. It is the big Epic game as of now. If you talk to somebody a little bit older or has been around gaming a little bit longer than that, if you say Epic, they're going to say Gears of War. Again, don't blame them. There's a big Gears of War statue here, not far from me, in the Epic building, which, believe it or not, even some of Iron Man 3 was filmed over at Epic. But for me, being older still and being around gaming even longer than that, when I hear Epic, I think of Unreal the game. I think of UT99, 2K3, 2K4. I was a competitive UT player for 99, 2K3, 2K4. I was playing on Proving Grounds. I was playing on IGL, Team Warfare. I adminned on a bunch of those sites. I used to do pour over demos and VODs looking for bots and doing IP checks for smurfing and everything like that. So I did the whole nine when it came to Unreal Tournament. And yeah, actually my sort of FPS career at the time got flushed when I moved over to World of Warcraft. But Lawbreakers had a really, really good lineage, and that's because of Cliffy B. He had left Epic and formed his own studio called Boss Key Productions. And Lawbreakers is what they produced, and a battle royale named Radical Heights, which really, really flopped for them and was probably their death knell. Lawbreakers just didn't have the best PR. At the time, Cliffy B was considered by a lot to be sort of an insufferable douche bro. I like him a lot. We communicate on Twitter quite a bit. He's not particularly far from me. I can probably go see him on any Monday when he does karaoke at a beer garden by me that he owns. I've almost run into him at an Alamo Draft House at the Super Mario Brothers movie. I like Cliffy B a lot. And even when he was doing bad PR, I still love Lawbreakers, the game. It was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it died. It could not withstand the juggernaut of Overwatch, and it made the change from a $20 price tag to a free to play. And Cliffy kind of got flack from that because he originally resisted free to play a lot and sort of slammed free to play and said he was never going to do that. And then it did. So people are like, what the hell, dude? I thought you said you didn't want to do that. Not because they didn't want it to go free to play. They did. But they were throwing it back in his face about his previous attitude. So it had some issues. That's where RELB comes in as a pretty good project, is you get to play it again. And even though Cliffy knows about it and he has spoken in the channels about it, and he used to be here on the Discord list, so he does know about it. I think the game has his pretty strong blessings on it over here. Hopefully, they're not going to try to do any monetization on the loot boxes, and which this game does have, because this was at the height of loot boxes when this game was out. I'd show it to you that there are loot boxes in the game waiting for you when you get in. However, recording gets really, really weird when I try to go into the game. It records about a second of it and shuts down. It's almost like it's resisting being filmed, as if an NDA is in effect or something. So I'm just going to stick with giving you instructions on what to do. So in about 9 hours from now or so, 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday the 27th, Lawbreakers will be up for a playtest. In order to get into it, here's what you need to do. If you go to their Discord, which I will link in the description, you can find out all the information there, but I will walk you through it. The first thing you do is go into the Setup Guide channel and you highlight and copy this Steam command over here. Copy it from the S in Steam over to the 350280. When you do that, just go ahead and hit the Windows key or the Microsoft logo and R at the same time. You bring up the run command, paste this in. It will launch your Steam and it will download and install Lawbreakers, even if you never had it in the past. Once you have that, you go to the public launcher channel and you get the most recent listed launcher in this channel. I picked up 1.2 earlier in the day on Friday, and then apparently they found a bug in it, so they released 1.2.1. When you click on it, it will take you out to your browser of choice. It will download it. The browsers, from what I've seen, do not complain about this file. However, once it is downloaded and you go to execute it, you may get a Windows Defender warning. If you do, just hit more info and say, yes, I want to install this. When you go to install it, it says, do you want to install it for yourself or everybody that uses your computer? Pick what you think is appropriate. It has a default directory. Again, I accepted the default. But then it says, do you want me to basically tell Steam, if you run Lawbreakers, run the launcher? And I said yes. That doesn't seem to have worked. When I go to Steam and I launch Lawbreakers that way, I get the Lawbreakers that tries to connect to the old official servers, and it doesn't work. When you get the RELB launcher installed, you'll have it here somewhere on your start menu, LB launcher. You can also begin typing LB for it, launch the launcher, and then launch it from there. When the game is not up, you can get in, you can do some configuration, you can open your loot boxes. However, sadly, you can't even get into practice. It would be nice if they could make it so that you can run practice matches and maybe practice matches against bots locally when the servers are not up running their playtest. I don't know if that's in the cards. It's just something that I think they should do. Kind of sucks you can't even do a local match if you wanted to. Again, I can't show it to you because it does weird things with the recording. When you run the launcher, it will ask you to set up an account and log in. Basically, it will just use your account and authentication from Discord. So it will like pre-fill your Discord information and they accept it, and then the launcher's like, okay, how you doing? Whatever your Discord name is, and then it goes from there. When you're launching it, if you happen to get a background window that looks like a DOS prompt or a command prompt and it says injected and thread main, that's good news. That means the game is going to launch. You may be missing it on your screen as sometimes it loses focus. You just go down to your taskbar and click on Lawbreakers down there, and it will bring it to the forefront. So, awesome news. I do hope I'm around at the time to give it a try. I wouldn't mind popping in and playing against people. They said matchmaking won't be working, so I think it's maybe sort of like a quick play thing where you hit join and you're just going to get thrown in. But yeah, I definitely would like to try playing Lawbreakers again, as similar to Gigantic. It is a game that existed at the time that I think died sooner than it should have. Gigantic has such a unique art style and wonderful music and everything. And I'm glad to see it's back. I think it could have stood on its own, but Perfect World is a bit of a death curse for games that go there. Lawbreakers, again, wish it could have lasted longer, but I think Radical Heights unfortunately did in Boss Key Studios, and Cliffy B was threw in the towel on it. But it's good to see Lawbreakers coming back. I have completely abandoned Paladins. I have not been back in a long time, and I don't think I have any headspace to add Paladins back to the rotation. I kind of went back to Dirty Bomb for a little bit at one point, and then again, better games have just pushed it out. But if Lawbreakers gets some life back, similar to Gigantic, I definitely will be giving it another shot, as it was fun, and I want to see if people start maining the original douche characters, like the double sword assassin guy was well known for kind of being douchey back in the day, and it'll be interesting to see if it sort of sorts out the same way that it used to. So again, I apologize for not really being able to show you any clips of the game being launched, but it gets a little bit weird and it screws up my NVIDIA recording over here. So if you're a Lawbreakers fan, look down in the description for the Discord link and all the other commands that you see here. And I will see you on the field of Lawbreakers, hopefully. Have a good one.